Hey, Dave LaCalle with HeadGames Motorworks. Today, we're going to do another teardown on a set of Subaru heads. Came in, going to make 1,000 horsepower, but there's a lot going on here that's wrong, and the reason why he couldn't make it. Check it out. All right, let's check out the cylinder heads first, and we'll work our way all around. So what you'll notice here is they were CNC ported by another place, and the CNC port is a little bit different than we would do, but that's okay. That's okay. So first thing I notice here is you'll see a lot of oil. All this black stuff, this soot, is all oil, and then it went all the way down here. You can see it goes into the port. Now these heads have not been washed yet, but there is quite a bit of oil just in the chamber. So that means it probably came from the ring. One thing I noticed here is they used a stock valve guide, and the guide clearance is actually pretty good. So I don't know if they use a brand new guide and then resize it, because normally that is not a situation, because it has a aftermarket for a valve, and normally this would make it like a hot dog in a hallway, but these things are pretty tight. Now, the issue I see with going to a steel guide versus a bronze guide is that the bronze is going to take heat away from the valve, and it has a natural lubricity. So if we're going to make a big power number, I want to get the heat out of it. I want to get the heat out of the valve, and they didn't do that. Now, here's the situation. Everything I'm saying here, I want you to know that you should take it with a grain of salt, because every shop does things differently. So they could take our heads apart and say the bronze guides suck, or this sucks, or that sucks. You're always buying the idea of whoever you're listening to, or whoever you're purchasing from. It's their idea of what works. Just because I say it does not mean it's gospel. Even though I really think that we do it probably better. That's obvious. So take a look at the seat angle. This is the 45-degree angle that the valve seats on. And I noticed that there is different colors. And the colors means, like one part of it is really shiny and the other parts are not. So what we'll do is we'll look at the valve. I'm sure that there was some valve float, and that's what happens here. It starts beating the seat in, and or it beats the valve into the seat, and then you start losing lash. The other thing I want to point out is they opened up the bowl area a whole lot. Like this is, I didn't measure it, but this is really, really big. Anytime that we've ever opened this up, it's actually hurt CFM. It's never helped it. The Subaru is one of the few heads that are very sensitive to that area. So we're taking a look at the valve. You'll see the 45-degree angle here. The 45-degree angle is beat into the valve, and it's on all of them pretty much. Now this is a sign of float, which is exactly what the customer felt. As soon as he felt it, he stopped, which is a very smart thing to do. He just couldn't make the power. The thing would go right into valve float, and now you see these kind of issues. On the exhaust side, if you can see right here, maybe you can see that, that is the lap line for the 45-degree angle. Now, what's interesting is that that doesn't match the width of the valve seat on the head. So if you look at the width of the valve seat, this is the 45-degree angle here, comes around here, and you would think that it would take up this entire section, but it doesn't. So it's just right on the very, very edge. What that would mean is it would be valve jobbed for one size valve, and then they used a different size valve. But according to my trusty caliper, it actually is the right size valve. I measured the valve seat and I measured the valve, and they're actually the same. So why does the contact patch look like that? The only other thing I can think of is, of course we're talking about theories, is it was just because of the valve float. Now here's something else you can see with valve float. So on the tip of the valve, you'll see that it has these like little rings, and these rings are from the valve float. What's happening is the valve is now bouncing on the valve seat, and when it bounces on the valve seat, you'll have, obviously it's going to beat into the bucket, and once it starts beating into the bucket, we're talking about this area right here, starts beating into the bucket, and, well, eventually you're going to lose lash. You're going to have all kinds of other issues going on. And sorry, it's really hard to focus on it. But so the intake valves were much of the same, where you had the same marks, and we discussed the oil. Now you see how the oil is on the back side of the valve here, all this dark stuff. The issue with all of this is this tells me that it was coming from outside of the engine. So remember I said it could be the ring? Well, this will tell us that it actually wasn't, because there's no way of oil to go up into an intake port when air is coming out of it, right? So they're into the chamber. So there's no way that would happen. It would have to happen from outside the engine. Now, what would be the culprit of the valve float? The culprit usually is either, well, it's usually the valve spring. I mean, that's some people don't set the spring up right, or they pick the wrong valve spring for the application, and then it becomes an issue. And most people think that just because it's made for, say, a Subaru, that it's just going to work for my application, or if it's a dual spring, that it's just going to work for my application. And these are not actually truth. What happens is you need the right seat pressure, you need the right open pressure for your camshaft, for your application, for your boost level, and then the whole scenario comes together. Speaking of the valve spring, here they are. So we had a Faria dual spring kit in it, and Faria actually makes two sets of springs for this. They make a low pressure and a high pressure, and you wouldn't guess which one this would be. This would be the low pressure of the two. So it makes 80 pounds in the seat, 80 pounds in the seat, and it's 180 open. This is not going to make 1,200 horsepower. They make a kit that would do that. We use that, well, we have used it for years, and we just shim it up. There's a bigger problem going on here. The bigger problem is rust. So what happened here is, I'm going to guess this guy runs E85, and he left it in the car, and what happens is it'll trap all that moisture. The moisture goes in your oil, and now you get rust on your valve spring. What would happen here is it would break. Now, some people would MF Faria saying that, oh, the spring broke, but it's actually because of the rust. The rust in this valve spring is a bad deal. You also notice that they're different colors. Let me show you this one. So this one, you can see the rust, but you see how it's like a darkish brown color, and then these are silver. Now, I can tell you for sure that the Faria spring comes this color. How they became that color, how they became this color, I have no idea. But I'm going to guess that somebody shot peened it. Maybe it was rusty before, and whoever owns it just can continue their ways. We would just replace this. Now, we're going to replace it because you really are not going to get the rust off the spring, and you would have to look it under a microscope to see if the rust had already started eating through the wire. Now, when it eats through the wire, it's easily going to break, and then you have a catastrophic failure. We do not need to deal with that. So what we'll do is we'll put the correct dual spring in there and make it all nice and nice. I also think it's important to note that when you're using a Subaru with the Faria valve train, Faria uses the Toyota lock in their kits. Oh, look at that little magnet. So this is the OEM lock, and here is the Faria lock, and you can tell that they're longer. It moves the lock area, like the lock groove is not in the same spot as the OEM, and that is because, as I said, they use the Toyota lock. They never leave a factory lock in any of their kits. Anything at 6mm uses the Toyota style lock. So if you try to use this kit or this lock in there, not only will you have the wrong spring height, but you'll also have it's going to just come apart. The same thing goes for the Faria valve. The Faria valve is made for the same lock. So they use the Toyota lock, and of course they're not going to make their valve for a OEM lock. You can't use anything else besides a Faria with a Faria in this platform. Check out, you see the center of the bucket there, and you see that mark, that's from the valve. As we were talking, the valve is now beating itself into the bucket as well, because nothing is in time, everything is slamming against each other. And this is also a good way to take the camshaft out, take the bucket out, which happens often. You look on the other side though, and they're really not that bad. They're not that bad. And I think that's because we have here a customer who knows what his car is supposed to do. And he said once it wasn't doing it, he didn't keep trying it. He just stopped, took it apart, hit us up, said, hey, fix me. Let's look at the journals. You can see here, you're seeing a little bit of wear lines, but I don't feel anything, and you can't hear it. Like, it's pretty straight. It just has like some looking lines this side, maybe not so much, some light scratches, something like that would come out with just a little Scotch-Brite roll, and they really don't look that bad. So this is from oil starvation, and that could be contamination. So remember we were talking about the valve spring, how the valve spring had some contamination because there was some water in it, and now that will take out all the properties that make it lubricate. And you never want to go about this dry, ever. Remember that. The cam caps look kind of the same. And I don't see anything here that says this head's junk, at least here. I don't see anything here. And the cam shafts look freaking amazing considering what the head looks like. I don't see any marks on the cams at all. That's either side. I know we're only looking at one side, but they both look the same and they look freaking awesome. And now we've come to the saddest part of this story and what makes these junk. Now, imagine you bought a brand new set of heads, you got them CNC ported, you put brand new cams, you have all these parts in it, something happens, and then you put it in a box and you just ship it. And the issue here is that we have tutorial videos on how to ship a head here, and my man did not follow the video, and he shipped the heads with the cam caps, the #1 cam caps on the head, and the AVCS bolt for the AVCS broke off on both of these. Now here's the problem. Yes, you could weld them. We're missing one, but you can tell on like this one we might be able to weld back on. It'll never be right, but because this is cast, it will never weld very nicely. We've welded them before. That might work. But this other head, you can tell that is just not going to work. Now, because you're not going to be able to machine this to be a perfect circle, and you can't really line bore these things. I mean, we can send it out and try to see if we can get somebody else to do it, but as far as I know, you cannot line bore a Subaru because of different size cam journals and because the bridge. Because the bridge is not individual, this becomes a huge, huge issue for trying to reuse it. So that does it for us today. I hope you enjoyed the little inspection. Super bad news on the head. Hopefully somebody else can fix it. The bigger issue here is that somebody, so it's CNC ported by somebody else, and if he has to get another head, then he'd have to get it CNC'd there. And then we would just have to ship everything there because we would never port our head the way they port their head. As I said, everybody has their own ideas, and none of this matches ours. And so now you have a situation where, well, he has to do what he's got to do. But this is not a shipper's responsibility. Just know that it is your responsibility to ship it correctly. And something like that is listed on our videos on how to ship a head to HeadGames. All right, this is really it for us today. Talk soon. Thank you. Appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Toodles.